Two major events that led to the alliance shifts in the diplomatic revolution were the War of Austrian Succession and the Anglo-French Wars. The War of Austrian Succession established the alliances that would be changed in the diplomatic revolution. The Anglo-French Wars magnified European disputes by insisting that Anglo-French rivalry participate in nearly all international conflicts. The basic idea that led to the diplomatic situations that would eventually shape the alliances of the diplomatic revolution was the balance of European power. Beginning with the Hundred Years' War, France and Britain emerged as the dominating European powers. Since their emergence as European powers, the two nations have been political rivals. Many opportunities arose for either France or Britain to raise up a monarch that would have power over its rival, which would wage war to prevent that monarch from coming to power. Such occurrences include the War of Spanish Succession, the War of Austrian Succession, the War of Bavarian Succession, and the Napoleonic Wars. France and Great Britain demonstrated the use of realpolitik during the Anglo-French Wars and the diplomatic revolution. Previous to the revolution, France despised Austria and Britain did not like Prussia. When it was convenient, though, and even beneficial to their fight against each other, France and Great Britain decided to ally themselves with their long-standing enemies in attempts to increase their advantage over the other. The actions of France and Britain during this time show that their status as enemies was more important than their other alliances. The War of Austrian Succession intensified bitter feelings between Austria and Prussia, as well as between France and Britain. In 1740, Charles VI, the Archduke of Austria, passed away. He established his only living child, Maria Theresa, as heir to his throne through the Pragmatic Sanction. When he died, however, many Austrians were hesitant to accept Maria Theresa as the Archduchess, as they did not want to be ruled by a woman. Maria Theresa successfully maintained her power, although it required most of her time, energy, and focus as Archduchess of Austria, and that was time and energy that was not put towards paying attention to international conflicts. Frederick the Great of Prussia took advantage of Austria's temporary weakness and seized Silesia. France viewed this as an opportunity to weaken Austria, their historical enemy, so they sided with Frederick the Great, supporting Prussian aggression. Great Britain wanted the Low Countries to remain in the friendly hands of the Austrians and did not want them to fall under the control of France, so the British aided the Austrians in defending against Prussia and France. The War of Austrian Succession established the alliances that would change and provide the significance of the diplomatic revolution. France supporting Prussia and Great Britain defending Austria would eventually become a French alliance with Austria and a British alliance with Prussia. Tensions arising from the Anglo-French Wars eventually got Prussia and Austria involved in the defensive alliances that defined the diplomatic revolution. The War of Austrian Succession, which ended 8 years prior to the diplomatic revolution, strengthened the diplomatic rivalry between France and Great Britain. In 1754, the Anglo-French conflict moved to America, and the French and Indian War began. During this war, George II was both King of Great Britain and the Elector of Hanover, which was part of Germany. George feared that France, in response to the war in America, would attack Hanover. George therefore set up a defensive alliance with Prussia at the Westminster Convention to frighten France out of the possibility of invading Hanover. France and Austria were both alarmed by the Anglo-Prussian alliance. Wenzel Anton Kaunitz, Maria Theresa's foreign minister, had desired an alliance with France for a long time, and he saw the Westminster Convention as a perfect tool to persuade France to form this alliance. In 1756, Maria Theresa and Louis XV signed the First Treaty of Versailles, forming a defensive alliance between the two nations. Exactly 1 year later, the two parties signed the Second Treaty of Versailles, changing their defensive alliance to an offensive one. The end result of these alliances was that Britain now supported Prussian interests and France now supported Austrian supremacy in Eastern Europe. These alliances signified the beginning of the 7 Years' War that would last until 1763. The alliance changes in the diplomatic revolution were similar to the Soviet Union's alliance swap in the World Wars. During World War I, the Soviet Union was on the side of Germany and Austria. World War I set up the alliances that the Soviet Union would later change, just like the War of Austrian Succession established the alliances that would change during the diplomatic revolution. In World War II, the Soviet Union began on Germany's side again, but when their security was threatened by Germany's invasion, much like Prussia's security was threatened by Austria during the diplomatic revolution, the Soviet Union joined France and Great Britain on the Allies. The Soviet Union's change in affiliation during World War II was a near repeat of the events of the diplomatic revolution, which occurred 185 years earlier.